All right, I'd like to start off by saying Barakateh Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Chakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is The Wheat and the Tares. Pretty much, this is a scripture that came to mind this morning. So just kind of wanted to just touch on that. This is one thing that the majority of those camps outside of Great Millstone don't go into. They don't really touch on this. You don't really hear that. I mean, if they do, very rare that they'll touch on it, if at all. And this is something that we have to speak on because it's a part of the gospel, part of the scriptures. And pretty much what you're looking at is something I found online, a picture of the wheat and the tares. And as it says up here, tares look identical to wheat. This is the wheat, and these are the tares. And this is a representation of Israelites versus Edomites. You could throw the other nations in there, but mainly Edomites that have intermingled with Israel, and they look like Israelites, but they're not, Then they're actually Edomites or whatever other nation they may be, but mainly Edomites because that's the main enemy of Israel, the Edomites. And in this lesson we'll hit on that. And you're gonna have dark-skinned people out there that look like Jake that are Edomites, just like you're gonna have light-skinned people out there that look like Edomites but are really Jakes. And this is why we can't be so judgmental quickly to say, well, you're Edomite, until you pretty much, the first thought, of course, is going to be Edomite because, our perception, whatever we see, that's what we, first look at it or view it as. Like they say, don't judge a book by the cover, which is a true statement because, the scriptures say, try the spirits whether they are of the Most High or not. And you're going to find out you're going to have a lot of so-called white-looking people that are really Israelites because their fathers go back to so-called Negroes or so-called Latino or so-called Native American Indian, on their father's side. You're going to find out down the line somewhere that they were actually Israelites, but they just happen to look that way because of all the mixing and mingling that has been done with Israel. So there's a big mix-up, among the world, as far as who is an Israelite and who's not. And this truth is about our faith, because there's been so much of a mix-up that you don't know who's who. And this is why the word is what's really separating the wheat from the tares, and this is the main vehicle right now that's doing the separation. But when the kingdom is about to be established and Yahushua comes back with the angels, they will actually separate the wheat from the tares, because the angels know. Now we could look at somebody and say they are Jake, and they may not be, or we could look at somebody and say that they're Edomite, they may not be, but the Lord knows better, So we're gonna get into the parable in the book of Matthew 13:24. It says, another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. All right, this man is the Most High. He sowed good seed in his field. The field being the world, as we're going to read later on. The seed is the seed, of Israel, which was planted in the pleasant land, that was cultivated, and built up, and eventually in process of time, when we upset the Lord, he caused us to be scattered. And in that scattering, there was a mixing with the Israelites among the other nations, and then there was the other nations raped our women, so on and so forth. So there's a big mix-up in the world pretty much now, and this is why it's so important, to be sifted by this word, and that's what the Lord is doing. Matter of fact, before I read on, let's go to Amos chapter 9 and verse 9, I believe it is. For lo, I will command. See, this is the Most High. For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in the sieve. Yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. And how is the sifting going to happen? The sifting is going to happen by the word. This word that we're reading, this word that we're teaching and preaching, this is the great sifter, because the Most High is drawing his elect in of the nation of Israel. And you're going to see certain people that look dark skinned, and you're going to think, oh, that's a brother right there. And he's nothing but a damn devil. But see, them other camps, they don't speak about that. They don't speak about the two extremities of it. The ones that look like Israelites that are really Edomites or other nations, and the ones that look like the other nations but are really Israelites. They don't talk about those things. You know, their whole thing is about whatever you look like, that's what you are. And that is a flawed doctrine. That is flawed, because that's not scriptural. That's what the scriptures say. Not to a matter of fact, let's go real quick to, what is that? 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 7, is it? I think it might be second. Just bear with me 1 second. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 10. Might be 2 Corinthians 10 and 7. Do ye look on things after the outward appearance? See, it's not about looking on the outward appearance. It's about the heart, about the mind, about the spirit. And this is why the scriptures say, try the spirits by the spirits. You know, by the spirit of what? This word. So if you have a person out there that might look like another nation, but they're receiving the word, they're accepting it, they believe it, then they're an Israelite. You know? Because the other nations can't get this. The Most High's name is dreadful among the heathen. And we've seen instances where you had individuals that tried to get into it, but they couldn't. You know, because the word of the Lord resisted them. Kept them at bay. Because this is not for all the other nations. See, but the case being out there where you have Jakes and Edomites mingled together, the Lord at the end is going to separate that. Those wheat and those tares. All right. So now let's go back to Matthew 13. Let's read that again. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy, who's the enemy? Esau, mainly Esau. The other nations too, but mainly the Edomites, came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. And as we're seeing, the wheat and the tares look similar. You know? Now, when we look up this word tares, which I just did, Zizaneon, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, it says a kind of damel or kind of darnel resembling wheat, except the grains are black. It says it looks like darnel or damel or false grain tares. Now, when I read down here, right, it says the same thing, kind of darnel bastard wheat. See, resembling resembling wheat, except that the grains are black. So it's a bastard, and that is a true definition of a bastard, a man or woman whose father is of another nation, and their mother is an Israelite. As we read in Deuteronomy 23 and 2, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. What is a bastard? A bastard is not a mixed, because your father is a Jake and your mother is a heathen. That's not a bastard. That's what these dickheads out here teach, that you're a bastard if your father is an Israelite but your mother is a heathen. That's bullshit. Because if that's the case, then why did the Lord allow Ephraim and Manasseh to be brought into the 12 tribes? If your mother was a heathen, then you were a bastard. Why? Why did the Lord allow? Did that just slip his mind? You know, why did he allow Jacob to allow Ephraim and Manasseh to be brought into a part of the 12 tribes? If your mother was a heathen, you're a bastard. How could that happen? And there's many other examples. But Ephraim and Manasseh were both Israelites. Their father was an Israelite, their mother was a heathen, but they still Israelites. See? So the definition of a bastard, or where they go mamzar, they say mamzer, is a person, a man or woman whose father is a heathen and their mother is an Israelite. So in this case, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Why? Because he's not an Israelite. He's a heathen. An Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of the Lord forever. Why? Because they're heathens. Bottom line. So the second verse here covers all the nations. And this is just some added, something else that the Most High put in there to let you know that how he feels about Ammon and Moab. All right. So going back here, a kind of darnel bastard wheat. So that bastard wheat is a person who looks, or a person whose father is a heathen and their mother is an Israelite. And in most cases, they look like, Israelites. And you have many examples out there. Now, some of those people that you see out there who have white looking fathers, though their fathers may be Jakes. And not in every case is that way, because the Most High is way out. You might have somebody that has a dark parents, and both their parents might be Edomites or might be a different nation. So this whole thing about looking at somebody, you're a heathen, you gotta let Yahweh B'Shem El Shai decide who's who. Our job is to teach the word. The Lord's job is to do the separation. All right. So now going back, let's read that again. It says, while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. So now how did that happen? How did the enemy, which is mainly Esau, how did he sow the tares among the wheat? Well, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28. I believe it's the 30th verse. Yep, that's right, brother Elder Menadazak, by Genesis 46:20. And unto Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, which Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bare unto him. So were they not brought into the congregation? So how they were actually made two of the tribes. So how in the fuck can you be a bastard if your mother's a heathen? How the hell did King Solomon's son Rehoboam sit on the throne when his mother was an Ammonite? Fuck out of here, man. And King David's seed came through who? Through Ruth. Come on, man. The fuck out of here, man. But this is the low level of understanding that these guys have out there. Because, you hear Elder Apostle say it from time to time. He recently said it, that these guys and these other camps out there, although they're teaching the truth, although they don't have 100% truth, but they're teaching the truth, but they pretty much just regurgitating what they learned at the old school. Yeah, that's a good one too. John 7:24, judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. That's right. Deuteronomy 28:30, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. See, you shall betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. What happened during slavery? Esau came, whenever you would get with a woman, he would lay with her first. And during the course of you and her being together, he would lay with her. And children would be born of that. And what do you think those children would be marrying, especially sons would be marrying when they got to the age of marriage? They're not going to be marrying no white woman. They're going to be marrying a so-called black woman. So what do you think is going to happen? That child is going to come out dark afterwards. And this is just the truth and the reality that other camps don't want to touch on. They don't want to touch on these things. These things are too controversial. And a lot of these guys, they don't really speak on certain things because it's not popular with the rest of Israel. This is not about a popularity contest. This is about the truth. You know? You can't be partial in something just because the majority of people don't like it. That's what them people back then were doing. They believed that Yahushua was a Messiah, but because of fear of the Pharisees and them, they wouldn't teach certain, or they wouldn't let it be known that they were down with Yahushua. Yahushua said, "What if you deny me? I'm gonna deny you too." You know, it's about the whole bringing out the whole thing, and this is why Great Millstone is so hated. Because we bring out everything out of the scriptures, no matter how controversial it is, no matter how people don't like it or whatever, it don't matter, man. As long as it's the truth. Thou shalt betroth a wife and another man shall lie with her. And that happened during slavery. That happened among the other tribes. When Esau came here, they didn't bring no women. They were raping the women that are women here. And eventually the women started coming over here. And some of the men later on started laying with those lighter skinned Edomites, you know. And they started bringing forth children. So there was a big mix up all throughout. You know, worrying about, you know, where does my DNA go back to, you know, how far back and where. It's a waste of time, because what is the determining factor in this? The words of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. This is what's going to sift everything and set everything back in its proper order. It says, and thou shalt dwell therein. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes there. But the main point is, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. And that's happened even unto this day. All right, so let's go back. Matthew 13:25. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. And we see that wheat and the tares, they look similar. All right. And in the case of people out here, you've seen situations where you had a so-called Edomite father and a so-called black woman, you know, Israelite woman, and their children come out, and some of them come out looking like straight up Jakes. You know? So it says, but when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. See? So how did that happen? That happened during slavery. And even now. See, during slavery, the so-called black women, the other women of the other tribes are being raped. Now they just freely give it up to the Esau. You know? And bring forth these tares. Now, like I said, some of them are really Israelites that look like Edomites. But that's why I said there's a whole big mix-up. You know? There's a whole big mix-up. And that's why this thing is solely based upon faith. Our spirit, the Lord's Spirit beareth witness with our spirit that we are the sons and daughters of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? So what are these tares doing in there? You sowed good seed. How the hell did these tares get there? Watch what they say. He said unto them, an enemy had done this. Who's the enemy? Esau and the other nations, but mainly Esau. The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? Can we should we just go in there and take the tares from among the wheat? Well, listen what the Lord said to them. He said, Nay, lest while you gather up the tares, you root up also the wheat with them. Why? Because some of the wheat look like the tares, but they're not tares. They just happen to look like them. And some of the tares look like the wheat. So you don't know what to grab and what not to grab. So the Lord is pretty much telling them, no, just leave it alone. I got this. Right? It says, let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers. Who are the reapers? The angels. Gather you together first the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them. But gather the wheat into my barn. What's the barns? That's talking about the chariots. You know, and ultimately the ones here that die, you know, the Israelites here that die will come back in the kingdom through the ones that make it. You see? So this is why we read Amos 9:9, for lo, I will command and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, because we've been scattered among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. Why? Because if they're an Israelite, they're going to be all right, whether they make it on this trip or not. And this is the magnitude of what we're dealing with. This is the reality of what we're dealing with. This is the power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Because it says Israel is not hid from me. You know, there's all kind of precepts, you know, dealing with that. Matter of fact, let's go to, what is that? Hosea 5. Hosea 5 and 3. I know Ephraim and Israel is not hid from me. So wherever the Israelites are, no matter what they look like, the Most High knows exactly who they are. You know? Let me see, is that, I'm not sure if that's Acts 15. I can't think of the actual quote. Oh, beautiful, bro. Acts 15:18. Known unto the Most High are all his works from the beginning of the world. So no matter where the Israelites are, the Lord knows. No matter where the Edomites are, the other nations, no matter what they look like, the Lord knows everybody. He created all these spirits. You know? So going back here, let's drop down 34. All these things spake Yahushua unto the multitude in parables, and without a parable spake he not unto them, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables. This is dealing with King David. I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. And he was breaking it down to them, how? In a parabolic form, because it wasn't meant for them to get the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. Only the elect were supposed to get it. Then Yahushua sent the multitude away and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. And he's going to break it down. He answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. See? Which is Yahushua. Actually, Yahushua said the Most High, but it's Yahushua, which the Most High gave Yahushua the plans. All right? The field is the world. The good seed of the children of the kingdom, which are who? The Israelites. And the tares are the children of the wicked one, which is who? The Edomites. The enemy that sold them is the devil, which is who? Esau. And how did he do that? Through the rape that he did. You know, during slavery, you know, during the colonialism of the so-called Americas, beginning with, you know, Canada all the way down through the Bahamas, through the Caribbean islands, through Central America, Mexico, you know, South America, so on and so forth. The harvest is the end of the world. This is when it's time to gather up, you know, the fruits. It says, and the reapers are the angels. Therefore the tares are gathered and burnt in the fire. So shall it be in the end of this world. So the Lord is going to come and gather the tares and burn them in that fire. It says, the Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend and them which do iniquity. And that's why 2/3 of the nation of Israel are going to be burnt up in this fire also, because they're part of the offense. But those tares are not, you're not going to have a tare that's going to make it on the chariots. You see? It says, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. They shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. All right? And yeah, that's true. The brother Nostalgic Critic says some of those conquistadors was Jake. Yeah, because, you know, you had a big mix-up in Spain. You had the Moors, you know, that had conquered them and laid down with the women. So some of them Spaniards actually were, you know, Israelites, you know, that were just caught up in the mix, you know, and did a lot of fucked up shit too. But, you know, it remains to be seen when the Lord said he's going to send the angels to separate the wheat from the tares. All right, so now how is the separation going to come? Well, let's go again to Amos chapter 9, verse 9. For lo, I will command. Who's this? The Most High is going to command. And I will sift the house of Israel among all nations. And why is this happening? Because we were scattered among all these nations, and that was a part of our punishment. going back to the curses in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, and many other places where the Lord spoke about scattering us. Let's go real quick. Let me move this over here. Move this back here. And let's go to, scripture just, yeah. Let's go to Joshua, the 1st chapter, and the 8th verse. It says, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, because this is the seal. This is the great equalizer, so to speak. This is what sets forward, what separates the wheat from the tares, so to speak. But thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written. I'm sorry, this is not the scripture I was looking for. This is a good one, but this is not the scripture I was thinking about. It's actually Nehemiah, the 1st chapter, and the 8th verse. Remember, I beseech thee, the word that thou commandest thy servant Moses, saying, if you transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations. And this actually happened. But if you turn unto me and keep my commandments and do them, though they were of you cast out unto the uttermost part of the heaven, yet will I gather them from thence and will bring them unto the place that I have chosen to set my name there. You see? So this is the point that we're in right now. The Lord is gathering back his elect, beginning with the elect. All right? So now, how is that happening? For lo, I will command and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations. So now how is that sifting going to take place? It's going to take place by the word. Let's go real quick to Baruch chapter 5 verse 1. Put off, O Jerusalem, the garment of mourning and affliction. Why? Because we've been in this low condition so long. It's just pretty much it's like damn near mourning every day. It says, and put on the comeliness of the glory that cometh from the Most High forever. Why? Because we're now being raised back up out of that dunghill. We're being raised back up out of that low condition. Our minds are being elevated by this word. It says, cast about thee as double garment of the righteousness which cometh from the Most High. Why? Because the latter end of this house is going to be greater than the beginning. So it says, and set a diadem on thine head of the glory of the everlasting. Which is what? This knowledge, comparable to garments. It says, for the Most High will show thy brightness unto every country under heaven. See? And this is gonna go back to how it was before, but even greater. When the nations will look upon us and be like, wow, what nation is so great as this, that had the Most High so near unto them, that has such righteous laws, statutes, and commandments as this nation. And it's gonna go back to that, but it's gonna go back to that. I can't even put a number to it. I was going to say tenfold, hundredfold, but even more than that. For thy name shall be called of the Most High forever, the peace of righteousness. Why? Because Yahweh Shai brought peace again between the Most High Yahweh and us, Yasha'Allah. And the glory of the Most High's worship, because the world is going to once again know that the Lord, is with us. We're going to be exalted back to an even greater position than when we were, in our glory back in the days. It's going to be way greater than that. It says, arise, O Jerusalem, and stand on high. Why? Because we're in a low state now. And look about toward the east, and behold thy children gathered from the west. Where are we at? In the western hemisphere. Unto the east. So we're being gathered from the west unto the east, by the word of the Holy One. See? So we're being gathered by the word of the Holy One. But these other nations are not going to get it. Let's go real quick to Daniel 12 and 9. And he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end. Many shall be purified. Matter of fact, a scripture just came to mind. Let me just get that real quick before I forget. Okay, now let's go back. And he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end. So this book, this Bible was sealed completely. But now in this time, we're getting the understanding back because the Lord is building back up the tabernacles of David that is fallen. It says, many shall be purified and made white, because you have the elect of the nation of Israel that are being purified and made white and putting the glorious garments back on. It says, and tried. And that's a part of the purifying process, is trying. But the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand. See? So these other nations are not going to get this. But the wise shall understand. Why? Because they are the wicked, mainly Esau. The other nations ain't going to get it either. But the main wicked of the planet is Esau. So it says, none of the wicked shall understand. So who's going to understand? But it says, but the wise shall understand. So among the nation of Israel, those that are part of the elect will understand this. Why? Because this is the stamp of approval, or the seal, or the reservation to get out of here. So going back to Baruch chapter 5, verse 5, arise, O Jerusalem, and stand on high, and look about toward the east, and behold, thy children gather from the west unto the east by the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the remembrance of the Most High. Why? Because we forgot our way. We lost our way. You know, just bear with me 1 second. Just bear with me 1 second. Salaki for a minute. All right. Before we read on, I want to show you something here. Something that came to mind. I just typed in biracial couple with children, right? Now here you got, I don't know if this is going to show. Here you got a Edomite, which appears to be an Edomite, and a black woman. And look at the children. You mean to tell me those look like Edomite children? No. Now if this guy happens to actually be an Edomite, these are tares. But look at what they look like. They look like Israelites. So if the case be that he is an Edomite, these are tares. Now on the other hand, here you got a Jake with what appears to be a so-called white woman. And look at the children. They damn near look like Edomites. You know, they could probably pass for Ephraimites, you know, but let's say that his son gets with a white woman and has children. I mean, that's if she's a Edomite. She might be a Jake, you know, but the point is, look at how light the children came out. And if he went to go deal with a so-called white woman, how light do you think his child will come out? You see? So you see the two extremes. Boom. If this guy is an Edomite, you know, look at the children. They look like Israelites. But if he's an Edomite, they're Edomites. But look at this contrast. A Jake with she might be a Jake, you know. But she kind of looks like, you know, lighter. She kind of could pass for Latina, you know. Let's see what else we could find. Now look at this. Are those your kids? Look. If this guy is a Edomite, look at the children. You know? And we give the what if because you never know. Let's see what else we could find. Here we go. What's this? I hate Pinterest, whatever the hell this shit is called. They never, you know. There goes another one. See? If this guy's an Edomite, look at the children. There goes another one. Oh, this is just different. Look at that. See? So, these guys that talk about, whatever you look like, look, man, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Now, I don't think that's the guy's son. This is probably just a commercial or something. Yeah, it's an Old Navy commercial. So I don't know if they really actually a family or they just made that, for the commercial's sake. But you get the idea. And this is why the sifting is coming through the word. Baruch 5:5. Arise, O Jerusalem, and stand on high, and look about toward the east, and behold thy children gather from the west unto the east by the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the remembrance of the Most High. So this is why we have to let the word decide. Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua through his word decide who is who. For they departed from thee on foot, and were led away of their enemies, but the Most High bringeth them unto the exalted with glory as children of the kingdom. Why? Because these are the children of the kingdom, which we read in Matthew 13, that the wheat are the children of the kingdom, the Israelites. For the Most High hath appointed that every high hill and banks of long continuance should be cast down. That's all these different governments, high governments, small governments, and valleys filled up, to make even the ground, that Israel may go safely in the glory of the Most High. Why? Because when we're exalted back into power, all these nations are going to be brought down low. They're going to take our spot. Yeah, bro. Like the brother House of David said, that's like my grandmother, light-skinned Judite with green eyes. She can pass for Italian or Puerto Rican. Yeah. Moreover, even the woods and every sweet smelling tree shall overshadow Israel by the commandment of the Most High. For the Most High shall lead Israel with joy in the light of his glory, with the mercy and righteousness that cometh from him, which is what? This truth. So there's no way that anyone can either slide into this thing or be missed. If you're an Israelite, you're going to be good. And that's a good scripture. We quoted it earlier, Spiritual Ark 144, Romans 8:14. For as many as are led by the Spirit of the Most High, they are the sons of the Most High. For ye have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. And that's it. Because the children of the Most High are the Israelites. And the sifting is coming through this word. Revelation 5 and 9. I started 8. And when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of saints. And the saints are the Israelites. And this book is the Bible that was completely sealed, which Yahushua broke those seals. And they sung a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, meaning the mysteries, bring the mysteries out. For thou wast slain, and hast redeemed us to the Most High by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. Because ultimately Yahushua died for all of the nation of Israel. But in this time only the elect will make it. It says, and has made us unto our power kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. And that's talking about the Israelites that are going to reign on the earth. And when we read Revelation, the 7th chapter, the 9th verse, it speaks about that multitude of all nations. That was all Israelites that were looking like your different nations. Like somebody put on the comment board earlier, Jeremiah 12 and 9, the speckled bird. And that's how the Lord is doing it now. He's sifting the house of Israel with this word. And it's going out throughout the planet, and it's gathering, and you see brothers coming in. Everybody don't look like the typical Israelite. You have some brothers that look like the places where they're at. But there's something about the word drew them into this thing. And although at first they might have been a little hesitant because of the way they look, but the Lord drew them into this thing. And now you see them teach it. Look, a heathen ain't going to get it. The name of the Most High is dreadful among the heathen. You see? So pretty much that's it. It's been the wheat and the tares. This is, something that came to mind this morning. So I read through, the book of Matthew 13, and a couple of precepts came to mind, and just put it together for the sake of edification. Which a lot of these jakes out here that know that the Israelites, they don't do that. They're strictly, if you look like this person, then that's it. If you look like an Edomite, you're an Edomite. If you look like a Hamite, you're a Hamite. Some of them go as far as if a Jake is too dark, oh, you too dark, you can't be an Israelite. Or you too light, you can't be an Israelite. Like in the scriptures, there's a color scheme, and if you go below this, you're not an Israelite. If you go above this, you're not an Israelite. When the scriptures say a speckled bird, which is one of the words that's used is variegated, which means many colors. Ephraim is a cake not turned. But hey, let them be, because they are blind leaders of the blind. The blind lead the blind, they shall both of them fall in the ditch. Yahushua said, my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. So whoever is the sheep of the Lord, whoever is the part of the elect, they will hear the message and take heed. The rest of them will not. They will go and follow, the others to their own destruction. And we have to teach the whole role, man. We can't just teach parts that are pleasing to Jake, because that's what Jake, they want you to speak smooth things to them. They don't want you to come with the realness. They want you to speak smooth things. They don't want you to tell them the truth. They want lies, because they like being lied to. Look at who they reverence the most. Esau, the biggest lying, deceiving, conniving devil on the planet. They pay him all the homage in the world. But when you tell them the truth, you become an enemy. That's why the Apostle Paul said that. It might become your enemy because I tell you the truth. So pretty much this has been a lesson on the wheat and the tares. I pray that you, brothers and sisters, were edified by this lesson. To the next time I say shalom. He's sifting the house of Israel with this word. And it's going out throughout the planet. And it's gathering, and you see brothers coming in. Everybody don't look like the typical Israelite. You have some brothers that look like the places where they're at. But there's something about the word drew them into this thing.